Okay, I did hit the button. We're good. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back with once again another episode, another tale, another chronicle in the epic saga that is the one and only Roto Hackers podcast. My name is AJ Herschel, the kid, and we are joined with two of the smartest and most brilliant fantasy people in the world, the illustrious Judah Buddha and the absolute stud, it's Jared! And we are your unauthorized reporters of fantasy football news and information. How are you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Good. Okay. I've never been more mediocre. I'm tired. I just got back from driving back from Illinois, so I'm a little wiped. But yeah.
Yeah, we missed you last week.
Oh yeah,
we did.
Last week was the.
I mean, yeah.
Well, last week was the hurricane.
Yeah. Y'all make it out all right?
We got Cademan in the house.
Hey, Cademan Bauer. He's the guy who I do Allied Rivals podcast with. So he's checking in tonight.
Awesome. He's a Bauer.
Nice.
All right. Is he going to be in our listener league? Have you told him about it?
I am getting.
We got one more spot
right
left.
I'm getting the link right now.
Well, we could have a couple more if we, if we needed to.
We can expand it to 12.
That's true. And then we got good old Sawyer. Sawyer, good to see you.
There you are. Well, unless there's anything else, I mean, I guess we can go ahead and just get started here for the most part.
You don't want to do no news?
That's what I'm about to say.
News in the NFL today.
Well, that's one way to lead us in. Well, gentlemen, what new? I think there's a couple decent sized news tidbits out there. And I think, I don't know, is there any of you guys want to bring up specifically first to get us started?
No, you guys probably, I don't even know what's the big, is there anything that I'm not thinking of?
Well, I mean, number one, there was Darius Geis got released by the Redskins.
Oh, yeah.
That was already a backfield we didn't want to touch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like that.
Oh, Judah likes it somehow.
Well, they're so cheap. Everybody in that backfield's cheap. Was cheap, and even still is cheap.
Well, Darius Geis, I mean, he was going though like round 7-8 in a snake draft, and to me, that was way too high for a guy with a bad offensive line, second-year quarterback, and a mediocre defense. And I was not feeling it, and now this just makes me feel even worse about it.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say there's like an abandoned like gravel parking lot out near where I live. I could go get as much gravel as I want because it's free. But just because something's free or cheap doesn't necessarily mean you want it.
Yeah, but here's the difference, though, is that the gravel is a bunch of rocks. We're talking about...
No, I'm sorry. What's the difference then?
We're talking about a bunch of athletes, and we can evaluate whether or not their skill level, where they're at skill level wise. And I thought Geis was skill wise was up there. He had problems with injury, and then
character problems too. Apparently,
yeah.
Which I remember I remember that draft. He kept falling because they thought, I can't remember if they thought he might be a first round pick.
Really?
But he was definitely like high, like I think maybe at least like high second or something like that. And he kept falling, and it was because of character concerns at the time. Yeah. So.
Well, see, here's the thing is that I kept hearing about Antonio, what's his name? Antonio Gibson. And I heard a lot of my favorite analysts talked highly of him, of his skill level, and and you know what he looked like on tape in college. But I always thought Geis is ahead of him, and I think Geis has got the job. And so Geis went down. I went out and got Antonio Gibson in as many places as I could. Of course, a lot of people are ahead of me. I know a lot of people have a lot of love for Love, but I don't know. He's kind of a wild card.
Watch Adrian Peterson have a 900-yard season or something.
Well, Adrian Peterson will be the lead guy. He's going to be the dude for sure.
Again, somehow.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so what then are you basing your interest in them off of for, say, like a 10-team league? Because if Adrian Peterson's the guy on a bad team, bad offense.
Well, first of all, we don't know. We don't know they're going to be a bad offense. I think they could be.
We could take a relatively solid guess that they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, bad. I mean, it's a complex. The NFL is a complex thing, man. We have no idea. They may be a good offense. I mean, it's true that it looks like they're not going to be great, but even if they're super bad for real NFL, they could be pretty good for, especially as a catcher, pass catcher, which is what Antonio Gibson is. He's actually a hybrid wide receiver, running back. It looks like they're going to be using him as a scat back / wide receiver, slot wide receiver. I think there's a lot of potential for him over Adrian Peterson if they're not winning.
That's interesting because I was going to say maybe Bryce Love is the one who ends up taking the job because he's more of a pure runner than Gibson was. He really split time between wide receiver and running back over at Memphis. Meanwhile, Bryce Love was one of the best running backs in the league at his best at Stanford. I mean, 2017, he rushed for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, we have no idea what he's going to look like though after the surgery. He's up for a whole year.
Sure.
And pretty much what it looks like now is he is Adrian Peterson's backup. And Antonio Gibson is going to be the pass catching back or / slot receiver.
Yeah.
I could see him, Gibson, becoming a Tariq Cohen type guy, maybe, if that worked out in the Redskins offense. Maybe give him a double threat. He can run. He can also catch passes. You've got Scary Terry at number 1, and then bring in either Peterson or Bryce Love.
Except Tariq Cohen is trash.
He is not.
Well, for fantasy, he has been.
Fair point.
But how do we know? How do we know he's going to be trash?
No, I didn't say he was. I said he's been trash.
But we don't know this season though.
No, he may be. Actually, I think he will be.
You're making an assessment based off of the past. Right?
No, I'm saying he was trash, but more than just his stats, he was. I don't see him to be. I don't think of him as a above average NFL player. Tariq Cohen, he's got quickness, but he's not above average speed. He's not really above average hands. He's decent, but Antonio Gibson looks like he could be better based on his skill level. Now, situation, that's hard to tell. I think it's hard to tell for anything.
All right. Well, we got a couple comments over here about it. First up, first time back in a long time, Omar Abreu is back. Good
All
to
right,
see you again.
Oh, what do you mean you don't know if you're playing this year?
Come on, man.
You got to get in. This season's going to be crazy. None of us know for sure if we're going to be playing this year. We think
right.
That's right. We hope.
We hope. Yeah.
I don't even know if I think. I just hope. What I didn't see. What did he say? Oh, wow, we got a lot of comments.
Oh.
You there?
I'm not sure if AJ's freezing up or yeah.
Oh, he is. Okay, so he also says Bryce Love, good call. We'll see. He's a wild card. Cademan says, I agree. I'm not sure
With
who
which part? Yeah.
Omar says, I got a lot of Bryce Love rookie cards.
Nice.
Go Bryce.
Nice.
Huh.
And
I'm
then,
on this.
what about Thaddeus Moss? Who's Thaddeus Moss?
Undrafted tight end, Washington Redskins. They already have Rodgers and Jeremy Sprinkle there, and I don't like Washington already. So for fantasy and a place with 3 tight ends, and they're still trying to decide on a running back and 1 wide receiver, I don't know. Especially when we talked about times there's other tight ends out there.
Yeah, and we've talked about like in a lot of old podcasts. Well, probably the ones from last year where we were going through some guys like T.J. Hawkinson and stuff like that from last year, where it's just very difficult for tight ends to make an impact in their first year. A lot of times, even in their second year, it kind of like that. Some the really good ones can, by their second year. If you're an elite guy, maybe you can in your first year. But it's if Moss does anything, it's probably going to take him at least a year, if not a couple.
Yeah.
Moss. Yeah, tight ends are always kind of crazy. I'm looking like what I mean. We always hear that rookie tight ends take a while to get adjusted. What about second year? Because there's a lot of interesting second year tight ends out there.
There are. Yeah, I guess I'm hoping that I don't know. I think it would be interesting if some of those guys did kind of take a jump. I was going to go back and look and see what some of the numbers were on like Kelsey and Kittle and some of those guys. I think last year was Mark Andrews' second year, or was it his third? But
I want to say third, but don't quote me on that.
I'm about to say, yeah. So last year was his second year, 852 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Travis Kelsey, his second year. Well, actually, Travis Kelsey, his rookie year, he had 862 yards and 5 touchdowns, nearly duplicated it. His second year, 875 and 5 touchdowns. So I think second year is a possibility. Kittle's really the guy that dominated in his second year. 88 receptions, 1,377 yards and 5 touchdowns. So second year, if you're a stud tight end, if you're going to be able to play sort of in that upper echelon, second year guys can do it. If it's one of the, just more like middle of the road guys, a lot of times for a guy like that, like an Austin Hooper, Tyler Higbee, I think it took to his 4th year. Hooper was his 3rd year. So most of them, it's usually the 3rd, but second is doable for the elite guys, which is why some of the guys we've talked about, like TJ Hawkinson is an interesting guy to draft, maybe Noah Fant or Mike Gesicki. There's a lot of really interesting second year tight ends out there.
I know. That's why I asked, because there's they're very tempting. If you can't get the top 3 tight ends, or if you can't get who I like to get, what's his name? Hayden Hurst.
Yeah. I think a good strategy might be, I saw a guy do this in the draft, and I think this isn't a bad strategy, is to take, 2 of those. This guy even took, I think, 3 young tight ends, which is, really kind of pushing it in terms of your roster spots. But, your odds are pretty good. Like if you end up with like maybe say all 3 of those guys we just talked about, Hawkinson, Gesicki, and Fant, like your odds that one of them is going to, blossom in the second year, I think are pretty good. But that's kind of tough to, take up 3 roster spots with them. So
we got some more comments.
I think Omar Abreu's where we left off said Tariq Cohen's a return man at best. No.
Amen to that.
No, I can go on a whole tangent about this, but I won't. I'll just say this. He is like a younger, faster version of Darren Sproles. who I've loved. He was one of the, for fantasy, not great. I'll give you that. For fantasy, Tariq Cohen is probably never going to be a great powerhouse running back to get, and at best will be a flex guy.
What did he do for real life football?
Tariq Cohen?
Yeah.
His first year with the Bears, he exploded.
So here's the thing with Tariq Cohen is he's young still. I mean, he's only 25. Just turned 25. He's just going into his fourth year. And so the entire time he's been with the Bears, he's been saddled with Mitch Trubisky and that offense. So, I think it'd be interesting to see, like, if you put him with a different team, what he could do his second year. Kind of like AJ's talking about is second year, he had 725 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns to go with 444 rushing yards on just 99 attempts. So it looked like, he was going to have a real opportunity to break out there. But yeah, I mean, in a different offense, like what would he do? I mean, put him in like a James White role, with the Patriots or, just almost any other team.
I'm curious to see what James White does without Brady.
Well, he's got Cam, who loves to dump off to the running back.
Right.
But there's also Sony Michel, Lamar Miller, Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead. So.
I don't think we're going to see much of what's his name? You just mentioned it.
Rex Burkhead.
No,
Damian
Harris.
No,
Sony Michel.
Sony. I don't think we're going to see much of Sony. At least not in the first couple of weeks. I mean, that's the whole reason they went out and got Lamar Miller. They wouldn't have gotten Lamar Miller if they thought Sony Michel was going to be ready to go.
And that tells you some about what they think of, Damian Harris's ability to step right in, or James White's ability to play.
I don't know, because here's the thing about James White and Sexy Rexy is both of those are scat back, pass catchers. Rex especially is gadgety. They don't have a between the tackles. Yeah.
No,
Rex Burkhead's a goal line threat.
He's gadgety. They use him sometimes in the goal line. They use him sometimes as a pass catcher. He's just kind of he's gadgety. They use him for various things.
Okay. Mostly to mess up any fantasy owner who starts a Patriots running back.
Yeah.
That's what they use him for.
I mean, have you ever started Patriots running back?
Yes.
Because who'd you start?
Sony Michel's first year, if y'all remember, his first half of the year, he was really good. He was getting goal line carries. What'd you say?
Sony Michel didn't play the first half of
his first season. Maybe it was second half of the year. I can't remember. Whichever one it was. He had a good time period there. And then James White's one season where he averaged 15 points a game for 14 weeks. Oh, man. That was the year. That was the James White year. And then after that, he's been like 8 to 10 points. But yes, I have started Patriots running backs.
They were hoping that Sony would be able to catch them. And
which he is. He was at Georgia.
No. From day one, he couldn't catch. Something about going to the NFL, he dropped too many passes for a Belichick system. And they just stopped passing to him. And they went to James White.
Just to weigh in on that, like Sony Michel didn't miss the first half of either year. He missed like 3 games like during his rookie year, but I think 2 of them were in the middle. One of them was at the beginning. So
okay,
just to weigh in on that.
Thanks.
Sony Michel? He only missed 3 games his first year?
Yep. And one of them would have been the opener, and then the other 2 were, let's see, like one was in the middle of November. That could have been their bye week. I don't know, but
that sounds like their bye week. So he missed. All he missed was the first. I don't think that's right. He only missed his first game.
Let me look again. Let's see here. All right, so his first year he played in the September 16th game. He played every week after that until there was a gap between October 21st and November 11th. and then there was a gap between November 11th and November 25th. So that could have been, but so that first week would have probably been, I don't know. It could have been like September 16th could have been the opener. We'd have to go back and look, but
No,
either way,
it was week 2. I just checked. He missed week
Okay.
1 in the preseason.
He missed this week one. Okay, I'm wrong about that.
I think there was some worry that, his knee, like even up in the draft, they were worrying that it was like bone on bone, and now we are seeing knee issues and stuff.
Yeah.
But he didn't really miss much of anything with it.
Yeah, we got a lot more comments. Thomas H over here, he says, well, you drop one pass from Brady, he'll never throw to you again. Go Dogs. I like this guy. He also says he's not sure he wants to play fantasy this year either, just not feeling it right now. Maybe I have Corona Sports depression. Thomas H.
You joined the league, Thomas H.
Yeah.
I kind of get it. Like I have this weird, I don't know if it is just like general, like depression. I mean, I don't want to say depression because it's not really depression, but just general kind of
malaise.
Yeah, maybe so. But I'm just like not that excited about fantasy this year. I don't know if it's just all the uncertainty, or knowing that, we may go in and have players just miss 3 weeks at a time. I imagine that probably is a lot of it, but I'm kind of feeling like I'm still playing. I've still got a ton of leagues that I now have to manage. But I feel that. I definitely relate to that.
I don't not feel that, I have to say.
So you do feel it.
I don't not feel it. I don't know if I feel it same way, There is I definitely identify with it somewhat. Did you see the question that
Yes.
MathQuest posted?
Before we do, really quick though, while we were on the topic of fantasy, for those of you guys who haven't joined, that's our link to join our league, our listener league. Thomas H, despite his hesitation, he's in it. Him and MathQuest jumped in it. Omar, if this is the one league you do, you should jump in it. Cademan, you should jump in it too. Ryan, you should get in on this.
I better open up more spots.
Yeah, get in on this, guys.
I wouldn't mind playing like a 12 team league. I normally don't do 12 team leagues for money because I mean it's just more people to compete with, and if I can, if there was a 4-team league where I could, play for money, I would play that one just because the odds are better because I want to win money. But if money's not on the line, bigger leagues kind of interest me because then, you have to kind of know your stuff a little more when it comes down to the later rounds and stuff because the pool is more shallow.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's tough. Yeah. I just opened it up to 14. So
okay, there we go. Well, we're at 10 right now.
Yeah.
So
we're at 10? We're at 10?
We're at 10. Ryan's in, I think. I think he's in.
Oh, snap. Should I kick Thomas out? I don't want no malaise messing this up.
No, keep it in there.
Yeah, we'll get a couple more, or at least 2 more. We need to at least make it 12. If it's not 14, that's fine, but at least 12 would be good.
Wait, I think I don't see Thomas on here anymore. Did he?
Oh no, he's Gardner Minshew.
I like that. It doesn't make sense though.
Well, let's get back to the comments over here. MathQuest asks us, always bringing the good questions. Could Miles Sanders blossom into a star this season? He's kind of one of those not quite top 5, but not low out of top 10 type guys we haven't talked about a lot. What do you guys think?
I've never heard him called top 5. That's
what I said. He's not top 5, but he's like top 10, but not enough to break into top 5. So what do you guys think? Could he blossom into a star this year?
The answer is yes, he could. Will he? He faces some hurdles. He ran into a lot of backs last year. His own teammates' backs. Lacks vision. But he might have learned it over the summer. If he learned some vision and learned to be a little more patient pick his head up and see the field a little bit more, be smarter about his run. He's got the athleticism. He's got the stop-go foot cutting ability, and speed. But then there's always the fear that Scott? That Scott comes in and takes the goal line carries, and vultures all his touchdowns. But I mean, how many teams do we not have that fear? So,
Jared, what do you think?
Okay, so here's what's important to know about Miles Sanders and any other young player is you don't really go back and look at what they did for the whole season. Is you want to kind of ideally look at a chunk of what they did towards the end, if there was a point where they started to kind of take off. So Miles Sanders, December, they played 5 games in December. He had 381 rushing yards, 172 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns of each. So 4 touchdowns total. So if you project that out over a 16-game season, you'd have something like 1,200 plus rushing yards, maybe close to 500 or so receiving yards, and a dozen touchdowns or so. So that's pretty exciting. I think the thing with Miles Sanders is going to be just kind of what you guys were talking about. How much are they going to give to Boston Scott? The Eagles always like to use running back by committee to some extent, it seems like. Carson Wentz, can Carson Wentz stay healthy? Because Carson Wentz gets hurt every season. And that offense is already, at least in terms of receivers, looking a little bit shaky again because Goodwin opted out. Alshon Jeffrey's hurt to start the year. Deshaun Jackson's fragile. So their top receiver might be a rookie, Jalen Reagor. They've got 2 good tight ends, but you wonder how much they're going to be able to sort of stretch the field. So, so I think Miles Sanders is a really exciting pick around the top of the second round. But I think what he does is going to depend more on kind of that offense as a whole, not necessarily him. I mean, he had a great average yards per carry last season. So, it's tough because you don't know exactly what that offense is going to look like. But, they're not in the most imposing division either. I mean, beyond the Cowboys, and you never know what Eagles-Cowboys games are going to look like. So you can't really get scared off by the Cowboys, but they play the Redskins twice. They played the Giants twice, who I don't think are going to have any kind of imposing defense. So I think Miles Sanders could be a potentially sneaky guy to end up. I don't know if he's going to be top 5, but if he got enough volume, maybe in the top 6 or 7.
On top of worrying about his vision and worrying about his usage, I also worry about his offensive line.
Yeah.
I actually disagree with that slightly, but
I don't think his offensive line is half it was as good as it was last year, and I just don't think he's an elite player. I think he's really good, but yeah.
Interesting.
What were you gonna say, Jay?
So there's a couple things in the whole Miles Sanders question to me, and it kind of starts with the fact that they're not going to have a ton of wide receivers probably for the entire, like you've said, Jared. Alshon always gets injured. Deshaun Jackson is erratic, so maybe he catches more passes out of the backfield, which could be good for him. I actually don't think his offensive line is that bad. He's got Jason Kelce at center, Jason Peters, and Lane Johnson, which is a pretty solid right side, all things considered, other than the fact that they're all like 35 years old. But ignoring that, the toughest thing for me about Miles Sanders is his schedule. Because, Jared, like you said, he has some easier matchups, but he goes 3 weeks in a row playing San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Then he gets Giants, Dallas, Giants. But then after that, he gets Browns, Seahawks, Packers, Saints. But if you're looking for that gem in the finals, I know, Jared, you're always looking at this. He gets Cardinals and Cowboys. So he's going to have two really tough, rough stretches during the season, but his last two games are really good. I think he could blow up in the easier matchups on the ground, and then in tougher matchups against teams like the 49ers and the Steelers, he's going to be a pretty good pass catching back. I think he could blossom into a star if the Eagles offense works well and efficiently, I'll say, with Doug Peterson. But I think it's the cards are stacked a little bit against him this year between team and schedule.
That is a weird schedule. It really is, like in such chunks, like you said, like easy chunk, hard chunk, easy chunk, hard chunk. So yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I mean, maybe he's a guy who kind of struggles throughout the year, and then towards the trade deadline, if you're in a pretty good position and your opponent is not, maybe you could try to, get him for that playoff schedule or something.
So just some points about the offensive line. They're all in the 30s.
Yeah.
Most of them are all in the 30s, and they have no depth. They didn't draft anybody 2 years in a row. And they didn't go out trade for anybody. So I mean, I think the guys that they have used to be really good. And maybe they'll be really good again this year, but let's hope they don't get hurt. Which offensive line guys?
Yeah,
it's a problem. But that is interesting about the schedule. I hadn't looked at the schedule at all for Philly. That's going to be interesting. All right. Was there any more news?
I don't think there's much more, unless you guys notice anything.
Well, there's the Saints. Alvin Kamara talking about it last year. He had a torn ACL. Almost got a torn ACL myself. And I think that's pretty interesting because it was week 6 that he went down with that, and he took 2 weeks off. What?
Well, wait. He didn't. You said he had a torn knee, or specifically a torn ACL?
I think they said it was an ACL, but I'm not sure. MCL.
Yeah,
There's
ACL.
ACL would have had him out forever. Yeah. No, he had like a stretcher torn. It was like a low grade tear, something MCL. You're right. And from week 6 on, and still performed to the level that he did. I think it's pretty. I'm pretty hyped about Kamara. I always have been. You guys know I'm AK-47 all the way. That's all I got.
Is that a Hunger Games reference?
I don't know. Is that Hunger Games?
Yeah, I feel better about him now. I think, initially I was pretty scared off of taking him. Like, now I think he's a much more, like, knowing that now, I feel better about like taking him, in sort of that like 5 spot roughly. I think the only thing is, like, it would have been nice if that had helped like push him down the draft board more. But the leagues that I've been in, he's typically, gone anywhere from 4th to 6th, maybe 7th. I don't know that I've really seen him slip farther than that. And in auction drafts, he's usually going for 60, 62, somewhere in there. So I like him. I just don't know,
nobody priced it, and nothing. Yeah, you were the only one who didn't like him before.
Yeah. His value didn't change at all. So, and he still scares me a little bit to an extent that, that Saints offense, they like to do weird stuff around the goal line. They like to bring in Taysom Hill. They like to throw to their 4th string tight end, just random stuff like that. So, I'm still like, I would still probably put him, around maybe I would put him 5th or so.
So you'd put Henry above him? Yeah,
I would. That's that's a little bit tougher, but I would still put Derrick Henry above him.
Henry is falling in my ranks. Falling.
Really?
Rick,
Why?
You have such a love-hate relationship.
Yes,
with
he
him.
does. Yes, he does.
I really do. The offensive line's looking bad. We're bad, worse and worse. I was going to say badder and badder. And I looked at their schedule again. Why were we saying their schedule was so good? I think maybe their week 16 or week 15 game is really good, but dang, they play the Ravens, they play the 49ers. It's a rough schedule.
So it's
They
Denver, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Houston, Cincy, Chicago, Indy, Baltimore, Indy. That's a tough stretch there. Weeks
Yeah.
10 through 12. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I still think that's apart from.
what happened is that I saw a couple of rankings and everybody was ranking them dead last as far as a running back schedule. I thought, what?
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, we've been talking about them.
What?
And I went back
But
and
they
looked at the
played
schedule.
Jacksonville.
They played them
What?
twice. Big deal. A lot of people played Jacksonville twice.
No, only the Colts and the
Because-
Titans and the Texans. And guess which team has the best running back there?
The-
Titans.
I don't know about that. The Colts have the best, one of the best run defenses, so you don't count them out as like a good defense playing against them. You've got the Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has like top three.
Of course.
They do get though, like Pittsburgh and Buffalo both at home.
Mhm.
So I still feel pretty good about them. I get what you're saying about that stretch from like Indy, Baltimore, Indy. But a lot of those, what are seemingly tough opponents they get at home, which makes me think that it's going to be a benefit to their defense there. And that's probably still going to be more of a defensive run the ball type game.
I don't know. I don't know if home court advantage or home field advantage is going to be that much of an advantage this year. And their offensive line, it just keeps getting weirder. COVID and something else happened recently. They put somebody on IR. Not on IR. They put them on PUP list. I think the right tackle or somebody. I can't remember. But and then I'm hearing a lot about Evans was his name? Yeah, Darrington Evans.
Darrington Evans, yeah.
Darrington Evans catching passes and how good he's doing at catching passes and how good he was in college catching passes. I'm like, I don't know.
They paid Henry though. I think they're gonna.
Yeah.
I think like that's their. It's kind of the comparison I made, last week. Is I think they're sort of a light version of the Seahawks, like during the Marshawn Lynch days. Like I think that's just their identity. I think they're going to be committed to that. I mean, sure, maybe it's possible that they just suck overall and they're not able to, dictate tempo and stuff like that, and they get forced away from using him. But I think that's just their identity, and that's what they're going to do. So we'll see. I'm still not particularly concerned about it.
Well, before we get into the thing we had prepared, Ryan N said, "Boys, aren't you glad NFL games don't go to 5 overtimes?" Do you guys get what he's saying?
No.
Okay. Well, Ryan, I'm so glad I know someone else who actually watches NHL. The Lightning and the Blue Jackets, I believe, went into 5 overtimes tonight.
5 over.
Wow.
I can't remember which goalie, but one of them made a record with over 80 saves in the game.
Wow.
What
Yeah.
happened to like after 2 you just go to a shootout?
Not in the playoffs. That's in regular season.
Oh, they're in the
No.
playoffs right now? Oh.
You're in the playoffs. Yeah, this playoff started tonight, and the Blackhawks are playing Vegas. So I got the
Ooh,
card pulled
doggy.
up on my phone. But yeah, NHL's back, and honestly, they've probably done the best job containing the coronavirus. Probably they've had over 3,000 tests, and no one's tested positive.
Maybe ice. Maybe we'll find out ice
Well,
is the key
right.
to it.
I mean, cold is. Wait, no, cold isn't.
Right. It's kind of like
Well,
I think the opposite.
Extreme cold. No, extreme cold is a lot of Canadian teams, bro. I mean, like Canada hasn't really suffered that much.
Well, that's where they are for it. So,
Oh,
Toronto,
really?
Toronto and Edmonton.
So they're in like a bubble themselves.
Yep, they are.
Yeah. So I mean, like that pretty well works because like NBA has
Mhm.
had success. I mean, I guess not
Yeah.
not to the level of NHL maybe, but their bubble has worked out pretty well
I
too.
think baseball is just just got stupid, you know?
Baseball players. Here's the thing with baseball players. I don't want the full screen. This will be a short little mini rant. But baseball players have too much time on their hands.
I can vouch for that.
This is the problem. I mean, they have too much time on their hands when they are in a game because for half of the game, almost all of them are sitting in the dugout. So. In my experience, baseball players just have too much time to obsess over little unwritten rules about, a player jogging across the mound or looking at a home run too long or whatever. And so they come up with stuff to do. And then when they're off the field, then we've seen it's even worse. So that's my little mini rant on just baseball players being stupid and having too much time on their hands.
Yeah, well, and football players are not too far behind.
Yeah, but at least in football, for the majority of them, they're like, if you're actually playing, you get down, you're dead tired, you sit down and grab your Gatorade. Baseball, you go out there, play left.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Minutes, go in and wait for your turn at bat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not, so what you're saying, you guys are saying is they get off, they're like, man, I got still a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm antsy, but like football, you get off, you're like, I'm dead.
Right.
Okay, I like that. I like that take, guys. Good job. Okay. Thomas H says, maybe I need a motivational speak from Judah. All right, here we go.
Here we go. You need the solo view for this.
I need the solo view.
Oh, he's accepting it.
To Thomas H and others, perhaps even, it's Jared. I would say this to your fears, your doubts, your general malaise as you enter the football year. For fantasy football in particular, this is a golden opportunity. This is the year that's going to be it could very well turn out to be the best year for fantasy football ever, because what a great opportunity to try all the things you've never tried before, to take risks, to do absurd lineups, and maybe even go all in on certain players that nobody else likes. Basically be like Judah Buddha all the time this season. Because heck, we might only have 5 games this year. 5 weeks. We might not have any. You might be playing and your opponent doesn't have half their team. This is time to embrace the randomness. And if you're used to seeing it as a 9-to-5 job, like it's Jared, then yes, I can see how that could be frustrating. But maybe it's time to loosen up and enjoy it this year as we try to be wacky and wild with our fantasy football uncertainty.
I've never been more encouraged to just delete my account and never play fantasy football again.
That's what I was trying to do. I play you first week, so I hope you delete it.
I gotta be there for that. I gotta be there for that at least. Yeah.
See, the funny thing is, you mentioned like this is the year when no one's gonna pay attention and everything. That is how random NFL fantasy is like every year. You go into a group with a bunch of random people. Half of them don't pay attention by the end of the year, and you literally get 4 people just cleaning up the waiver wire, and 3 other people have Le'Veon Bell still in their starting roster spot. It's hysterical.
I am super encouraged to hear Thomas H. and Jared say that, because, man, I'm going to clean up on these leagues. I hope more people get like, oh, I don't care. I only paid $20 for it.
And then
if Jared's feeling like that, imagine Joe Schmo, 80-year-old dude who signed up because he loves football. And he's like, I'm a millionaire. I don't need to worry about $20. I got Corona depression or malaise. I don't want to call it depression.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
that's possible. Sure. I mean, like I don't care how I feel about it. Like once it gets going, like I'm in competitor mode. And so I'll still play it, but I think there's probably some validity to what you're saying there. Maybe people will be more frustrated by it this season, maybe it could be the opposite. Like maybe people don't have anything else going on. They've been laid off or something. And so they're going to devote more time to it. But I think it's possible what you're saying could kind of come to pass, which is, I don't know, it's kind of scary because it seems like 40% of the league is already checked out on it by like week 6 anyway. So it can be good in some ways. And in others, you're like, man, I could offer this guy a really good trade that would help me and help him. And he's just not checking his team anymore.
Yeah. True. Well, Judah Buddha, I hope you're happy to embrace the randomness. As Thomas H says, I guess you've convinced me.
Embrace the randomness. Is that what I said? I don't remember saying that. Okay.
He said that. He said that was pretty good. Embrace the randomness.
Yeah. All right.
Really quick, we got a couple comments about drafting. 710S, can we draft this weekend or next weekend? A lot of his favorite players like Allaire going up in draft costs. Maybe next weekend?
I'm gonna tell you something. 710. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think Allaire is gonna go much. You're talking to us. We're the ones. You're not. I think Allaire is gonna go second round. Let's just be honest.
Well, it's auction, right? So
yeah, that's right. It's auction.
So he's gonna go for his regular. In the drafts I've been in lately, he's going for like 51, 52.
Wow.
I don't know. He might be worth that. Oh, well, maybe that's a good segue into our rankings.
Yeah. So next week then maybe?
Next Saturday?
Next Saturday? I'm
so
cool
not
with
this
that.
one coming up. Not this one coming up, but the next.
Yeah. So the 22nd. Saturday, the 22nd. Auction draft.
Works for me.
Yeah? Okay.
I guess we probably need to ask people in the league, since we're going to have so many people, like what's going to be, because I don't know, like normal people might have something to do on a Saturday morning or something, like maybe it doesn't matter to me. I can do it anytime, but I just don't know if like maybe like 8:00 on a weeknight would work better for people, or I don't know. I don't know
either. I will. I'm gonna put it out there on the chat.
All right.
On our so guys, go and answer on the Yahoo fantasy app. I'm gonna go put on our league. I'm gonna go put the question out there.
All right. Well, that pretty much, I think we covered everything that we got over here. So let us move on to what we prepared for today, which is
Now, take a look at your rankings.
Oh,
Nice.
That's good.
Yeah,
Who did that?
you did.
I did.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I don't remember doing that. Okay.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Well,
so
we brought in rookie rankings today. Who wants to start it off for us?
I'll go ahead and do it.
All right.
Let's see. Share my screen. We'll go to Tabarino spreadsheet. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Wait a minute. Is it a weird shape?
No, it was fine.
Let me see. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I considered not putting him first. I wouldn't have had him first if it weren't for I am worried about his skill, for one. He's not as skilled as Swift, Taylor, or Dobbins. Nobody ranked him in the top 5, I think, going into the draft. But his situation is pretty good. I think I think he still has to deal with the other, the fake Damon Williams. What's his name? Darrell Williams. And he still has to deal with who was the rookie last year?
I just blanked out on his name. I know how Judah feels.
Every day, every minute of every day.
Darwin Thompson.
There's still Darwin Thompson. There's still the fake Damon Williams, and he's still a rookie in the Chiefs system, which and he's I don't know. There's still some question marks, but as far as compared to the rest of them and their situations, I think he definitely has the clearest, easiest path to getting the most carries.
Mm-hmm.
Dobbins, to me, skill wise, like the intersection of skill and opportunity is better than the other two. I know a lot of people put Jonathan Taylor ahead of Swift, and and Jonathan Taylor probably is number 2 for most people. I just don't see him as that good of a player. I don't like his situation as much. I like Mac a lot. I think the coaches do too. Now they've talked Taylor up, but I think all of these guys are going to have hurdles because of COVID and not having time to play together. Now they'll have practice. They're going to have to get a lot of stuff in practice. So we'll see. Some of these guys will excel. I don't know who. As far as like some of these guys will overcome the COVID thing. It's impossible to know who is better on Zoom. I like Swift, always have. He was probably he was my number 2 until I started watching J.K. Dobbins tape and just fell in love with him. I don't know who's better, but I just like J.K. Dobbins better. I like the fact that he's on probably the Super Bowl team for next year and a run-heavy team with a kind of decrepit old man ahead of him. So, and then the rest are sort of I have Pittman really high. I have Pittman super high, and I'll be honest with you guys, I have these based on I assume that TY is not going to play much if he even makes the team.
What are you talking about?
The Colts fan in Jared is absolutely exploding right now.
I don't think TY. I think TY is not long for this team.
The Colts offensive coordinator has already disagreed with you since he said the other day that their offense is still going to run through T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. He's going to have to get healthy and stay healthy.
T.Y. is like Julio Jones mini-me. He's never really healthy. He's always banged up, but he's usually out there anyway. Last year was sort of let's see, I'm trying to remember how many games he missed last year. Last year it did cost him a couple, but I think he's gonna be out there. But I do like, I'm not quite as high on Pittman as you are, but I like him.
I don't think the offense is going to run through Pittman, but I think he's going to get a lot of touches. Now, again, though, he's going to have to deal with learning the system, learning the plays without having very much, actual gameplay. So we'll see. From what I've seen and from what I heard, Pittman's a really intelligent football player. And I've been noticing him ever since you talked about him, Jared. I've been going out like, who is this guy? And people rave about him.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's smart, physically talented, and he fits. He has a role in that offense that no one else can. Like Phillip Rivers has always loved big receivers. T.Y. Hilton's tiny. Paris Campbell is decent size, 6 foot, if he's healthy and plays the slot. They've got Jack Doyle as a tight end, and I know Rivers likes to throw to tight ends too. But I think Pittman could be just, especially like a red zone monster. I don't know that he's going to have a ton of catches, but I think he could be pretty solid in yards, and I think he could have a ton of touchdowns in that offense.
Yeah, I agree. The other one I think I have kind of high is CeeDee Lamb. I don't know if other people have him that high. This is a hodgepodge of other people's rankings and then my own kind of messing around with it. But I think CeeDee Lamb could be he could be the number 2. I could see Gallup being the number 1, being the X, and Lamb being the slot player, but getting a lot of dump offs and just short routes, getting a lot of touches. I don't know. What did CeeDee Lamb play? What position did he play? Was he like, did he play X? Did he play Y?
I don't remember what. I don't know if AJ can look up what he played. I don't remember. I think he was just like he played. He played their catch the ball position.
Just like go out and catch. Is he really tall?
Isn't he like 6'2", 6'3"?
He's 6'2". He's pretty short.
Wide
receiver. He's not like for a big wide receiver. He's not huge.
Yeah,
6'2" is not bad.
Yeah. Looking it up, he was kind of Oklahoma's just receiver, period.
Okay.
He just kind of did everything for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to see your guys'.
I do want to say one thing before we move on. You have Antonio Gibson really high.
He just is loving him from Washington backfield.
I love Antonio Gibson. I think I always like players that you can play in multiple. Like I think in Yahoo you can play him in wide receiver and in. I don't know if you could do it in Yahoo, but in my guys at CBS Sport were talking about you can play him in both. Now that's not like that important because most people have wide receiver and running back slots, but it can be pretty useful, especially during COVID when you gotta, maybe switcheroo. All your running backs have already played or something, and
okay. I mean, this is coming from the guy who talked about Devin Singletary before it was cool. So, if nothing else, rookie running backs is the one thing I'm more inclined to trust you on.
Well, I'll tell you this though. What I did learn from that experience, Devin Singletary was good, and I think he's going to be great this year. But I did realize that rookies do take a long time to come. Like even if you see something, it doesn't mean they're going to start right off getting the touches.
Yeah.
I'm really wary about it this year after going through that last year. And just why won't they give him more play? He's
Frank
good.
Gore.
And let Frank Gore run into something 100 times, Like, what is up with that? And it's just because there's like a prejudice against rookies. Maybe for a good reason, All right, that's all I got.
All right. Cool. Jared, you want to go next?
Sure. Let's see. If I don't freeze my screen.
Oh, yeah.
And while you're waiting, MathQuest says, does Drew Brees have one last fantasy season left?
Great fantasy season.
Oh, he's a great fantasy season. I think he does. I don't know, though. I don't know. I haven't taken him in any league because I'm worried that they're going to be a very run heavy defense and gadget play team.
Okay, I shared it. I think you got to switch to it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
all right. So, Okay. So mine is, I just did top 10.
All right.
Cool.
But yeah, CEH, I mean, he's number one. Jonathan Taylor, I don't like at his draft spot really in the fourth round that much. But I think Mac is a much better value because I think they are going to kind of split carries. But I think that offense, if we're just ranking the rookies, I think that offense is going to, go on the ground. And Mac tends to get hurt. So I think there's a very good chance that, even if it is a split early on, the Colts with a good defense and everything can kind of control the tempo and end up giving him a ton of carries. So I feel a little bit better about him than I do say, Cam Akers and DeAndre Swift. We have no idea what the split is going to look like in LA. Henderson, Brown, Cam Akers could potentially, be get a better volume than Taylor, but there's more risk there. Kind of the same with Swift. Detroit has never been that running back friendly, or hasn't been running back friendly really since probably Barry Sanders. And they still have Kerryon Johnson, who, the Lions situation is almost kind of similar to the Colts, where like Kerryon, if he's healthy, is pretty good, but he's just probably not going to stay healthy. So I think Swift is another one that, maybe to start the season, he's not getting some Lions share of touches, but Kerryon gets hurt and then, he takes over. So I think there's actually probably some parallels between him and Taylor, except for the fact that, the Lions are not going to run the ball to that degree, or I don't know that, they're really going to dump off to the running back to that degree. So I think those four, were the easy 1 through 4 for me. I put Jerry Jeudy at 5 over J.K. Dobbins, and I do it with this disclaimer that if Mark Ingram went down, J.K. Dobbins could be a league winner. He could be like James Conner from 2 years ago, filling in for Le'Veon Bell, because that is such a run-heavy offense. And I think, Ingram, as he's kind of gotten older, he last year he just became more of like a 50 yards and 2 touchdowns type of guy on his good days. I'm sure they'll give Dobbins some carries, but with Ingram probably getting a lot of the goal line stuff, with Lamar Jackson stealing a lot of that, it's just hard for me to believe that, barring an injury, he's going to be someone who's going to leapfrog those first 4 guys. And even Jeudy, for me, even though, Dobbins is going higher in the draft, and I wouldn't actually take Jeudy before him, because you can get, Jeudy much later, or even like off the waiver wire. Like there's been a couple of drafts I've had where people haven't even drafted him, which surprises me. But the thing I like about Jeudy is, he's not. I kind of like the fact that he doesn't have to go in and be the number 1 receiver, unlike Rager. I think Jeudy could. I actually think like Philadelphia, it would actually probably be much better for Rager and Jeudy if they were flipped, and Jeudy was the number 1 wide receiver in Philadelphia, could easily just step right into that, because I think he's, probably the most polished, whereas Rager needs some more time. But, even as the number 2 receiver in Denver, I think he's different enough from Courtland Sutton that he can, get a lot of balls. I feel really good about the kind of rookie season he can have. So I put him there. Rager at 7. At this point, it starts getting a little bit harder, because it's apples to oranges in terms of situations where, Rager's in a situation where there's not a lot in front of him in Philadelphia, but if he's got to be the guy, how is he going to handle that against NFL cornerbacks? He's definitely not the most polished guy. So you have to start kind of weighing situation versus NFL readiness, all these different things. So if someone wanted to, drop him down to 10th, I couldn't argue with that. I think it's just the volume of why I would have to, maybe put him above the others. Pittman, I already talked about that. Again, Phillip Rivers likes big receivers. Pittman is really in a unique spot on that team. I think he's a guy that can be translate his game quickly to the NFL. So I really do like his situation. He's just on almost every waiver wire in the leagues I'm in. So CeeDee Lamb's situation, there again, it's almost kind of like Jerry Jeudy. I think if he had gone to a different team, I would have him up there maybe as, 4 or 5. But in Dallas with Amari Cooper, with Michael Gallup, with, Blake Jarwin, at tight end, maybe developing into a bigger role on a team that's got Ezekiel Elliott as the running back and Dak run, all these different things. It's just hard for me to believe that he's going to get enough of a volume to be able to leap some of those other guys, unless there's an injury or something. Now, if there's an injury, then, it could be, again, like a J.K. Dobbins situation where, he could vault up very easily to being, the top receiver of the rookies and, a top guy, period, for the season. You just can't predict that, and you can't really draft or rank based on that. So I would put him there. And then 10th, I didn't have strong feelings about 10th. I just put Justin Jefferson in there because of situation and not really a lot of competition besides Adam Thielen there. It's a run-heavy offense. So I don't know what his volume is going to look like even as the number 2 receiver. One guy that I just threw in as a kind of interesting honorable mention was Edwards. And I saw Judah ranked him, around – I think you had him like 15, 16, maybe. I don't remember. But I think he could be
at 18.
Okay. I think he could be sort of an interesting guy that maybe turns in like sort of a deal like Terry McLaurin last year, where there were plenty of guys drafted ahead of him. But I think Edwards in that Raiders offense, I mean, Tyrell Williams is going to start opposite of him. It looks like Ruggs is actually going to be in the slot. They're saying. So that's interesting. So I think it could be like sort of a weird thing where, and I've seen a couple other couple of fantasy analysts talk about the same thing, where they could legitimately see him being a surprise and not only catching more and producing more points than Ruggs, but then a lot of those rookie fantasy receivers drafted before him. So I threw him in as sort of an interesting honorable mention.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you think about it, Carr, he threw enough one year to have both. Who was it? He had 2 wide receivers in the top 10 fantasy wise.
Wow.
Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, probably.
That's right. Yeah, Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. So
yeah,
he could. I don't know.
It's possible. I think just the way they've structured that team, it's probably going to be a lot of Darren Waller. It's going to be a lot of Josh Jacobs. So I'm not high on any of those. I don't, but I think if you're just in like a super deep league, Edwards could be an interesting pick.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I was not expecting that.
Where would you rank him?
That's tough. I'd have to go back and look at the full list of
mean,
rookies. I mean, probably
Ayuk better.
I might actually like him better. I mean, if you look at what Debo did in that 49ers offense last year, it wasn't a whole lot as a rookie. That's going to be a run heavy team. And then some people are, putting T. Higgins right outside the top 10 of rookies. That's a tough one for me to maybe if AJ Green goes down, But otherwise, I mean, you've got AJ Green, you've got Tyler Boyd, you've got John Ross. I don't really expect T Higgins to come in and just make an impact right away. So I don't know. I might put Edwards around 15. I might put him a couple of spots higher than you.
I mean, the big question is, would you put him above Ruggs?
I just don't expect a whole lot out of either one of them. Not in best ball, because Ruggs is just more explosive, and he would have more of an opportunity to give you those big weeks. In a season-long draft in a deep league, maybe so. Yeah,
especially PPR, he's probably going to catch a lot of balls.
Potentially, yeah. So that's mine. What about you, AJ?
Sorry, say it one more time. Sorry,
I said, yeah, that's mine. What? Nothing terribly interesting about mine. So what about yours?
Yeah, that's good. It's kind of funny. Mine is going to be so much different than you guys'. I'll go ahead.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit excited. Real quick while I'm pulling it up, Jared, you want to answer that question right there from MathQuest? Does Breeze have a great fantasy season left?
I like him. I've got him, and I was looking at the players that I have a lot of stock in. That was one thing that maybe we can do for next time. God, how many teams do you have roughly, Judah? Do you think right now?
That have already drafted?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I was thinking if you have a good number, then maybe we could do a list of like the guys that we have the most stock in and stuff like that.
8. I've got 8.
Okay, well, that's pretty solid. So I was looking at, like the guys that I have the most stock in, and it's rarely going to be like top level guys, because, those guys are going to go depending on your draft position, or they're going to in different leagues. You may not want to pay the money for them. So the guys that I always have the most stock in are generally lower level guys. Not that, Drew Brees would be a lower level guy, but I mean, we're talking about stuff like AJ Green, where people are scared away by his injuries, and you can get him for $5 in an auction draft or something like that. So guys like that. And one of those guys for me is Drew Brees. What I like to do with Drew is play him in the home games. I mean, at home, if you project his home stats out over 16 games, I mean, he'd have like 40 touchdowns, so he's just an easy candidate to me to say, okay, I'm going to draft you, but I'm also going to draft another quarterback, and then, or pull another one off the waiver wire. And then I'm going to play you in the home games. And that's, it's extremely safe. I mean, he's still got Michael Thomas. He's got running backs he can dump off to. He's still got Jared Cook. They added Emmanuel Sanders. They traded the bottom of their draft for a young tight end. He's with Sean Payton, who's an extremely creative play caller. Yeah. So yeah, I used to be, I had a season where I was like, I'm out on Drew Brees. And then he bounced back from that, and then just kind of seeing the consistency of what he does at home, the value is really, the value and the consistency of what he does at home. To get a guy for $2 or sometimes $1 in drafts that you can often count on for 3 touchdowns, to put up like almost Mahomes like numbers for only half, your games. Is pretty nice, but the key to that is knowing, that which half you're going to get them in. Usually, it's going to be the home games. So, yeah, there's potential that maybe it's not going to be quite the same, without having fans in the stands this season. But for the offenses, the fans are normally quiet for the offenses at home. So I don't think it's really going to affect them that much. So yeah, I like Drew Brees for his value. I've got a lot of stock in him.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys are trying to get to bed soon, so I'll go ahead and be quick with my rankings.
This has gone by fast tonight.
It
Like an
has.
hour and 15 minutes. Like I just looked up and saw it was 11:30. I'm like, wow, this is really
Yeah, it's crazy. So this is the bottom of my list right here. I've got Chase Claypool, Steelers. I've got Brian Edwards in Las Vegas down here, which is probably the first major difference between you guys, but that's partially to me because he's in Vegas. I don't know how they're going to look. Tyrell Williams is still there. I'm not huge on the Raiders this year. Laviska Shenault is the fourth wide receiver in Jacksonville at this point, between like Conley and companies and Chark, so he's low. Hamler's above him. Keyshawn Vaughn dropped for me so much when they got LaShawn McCoy. Because before, in a lot of my mock drafts, I was taking him round 11 because I was like, this guy's a goal line threat. That's what he did in college. I'll take him here for sure. And then they went out and got LaShawn McCoy. And I'm like, well, I don't know if this helps me or hurts me with this. So he dropped for me. I've got A.J. Dillon. He's a big question mark in Green Bay. Mims, Darnold's going to have to throw to somebody. Ayuk, I like San Francisco. And now that Debo is injured and probably out for the beginning of the year, and Marquise Goodwin isn't there, I like him pretty much just for that. Higgins, I mean, he's got the connection with Burrow. Other than that, I'm not sure. Zach Moss, goal line threat once again, but he'll be splitting with Devin Singletary. I've got Akers kind of low.
Hey,
I'm not huge on the Rams running game just because the Rams are so weird. Because Goff couldn't get it going last year. The running game wasn't great until the second half of the year. I think if he's going to be big, it's going to be later in the season instead of the beginning. After that,
you have him lower than both of us.
oh yeah, I do.
oh, yeah, way lower.
Yeah,
I've got Pittman at 10 because I think he'll be a solid number 2 in Indianapolis, and I would totally take him where he's going, which is not going right now, so I totally grab him. J.K. Dobbins, my only concern with him is that there's 4 other running backs, but Jared, you pretty much explained him pretty well. If Ingram goes down, he's number 1. I've got Ruggs and Rager tied at 7A and 7B because both of them to me are in the same situation of, I mean, I guess you're our number 1 now, so that's kind of my thought with that. CeeDee Lamb's at 6 because Gallup's there and because the Amari Cooper's still there. He's playing third wheel, which worries me. I like Justin Jefferson a lot, especially second half of the year. I think if Kirk Cousins throws the football, he could slide into a Diggs role at number 2. He's pretty complete as a receiver. I like Justin Jefferson a lot. I've got Jonathan Taylor at 4, mostly because he's competing with Mack and technically Nyheim Hines for yardage and carries. I've got Judy at 3. I like him a lot. I like Denver a lot. Enough said. I've got Swift at 2 because all he has to beat out is Kerryon Johnson, who gets injured every 2 weeks, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire at number 1. I think we all kind of know why he's number 1. So this is my, there we go, wide receiver and running back rankings divided up by position.
interesting.
Yeah.
I like Swift as 2.
Mm.
Don't know why you got to disrespect my guy, JK.
Because there's 4 other people there. That's my only worry.
People, Justin, what's his name, barely got any playing down.
Justice Hill.
Justice Hill, yeah.
Still.
And is Gus Bus still on the team?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, I said it before. I love J.K. Dobbins if Ingram gets hurt, but if he doesn't, so I think where you draft him is just sort of this like where you start drafting for that potential, you know. I know I don't have a problem with where you've got him ranked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and looking at this, like, and just thinking more about how you guys have talked about Cam Akers a lot as well, I'd probably put him higher on my composite because I have him outside the top 10 right now, which, yeah, looking back, probably not the best decision, but I'm looking at the other running backs too, and I'm like, well, I trust Clyde because Kansas City. I trust Swift because I like Detroit. Taylor has got a great offensive line in Indianapolis, and Dobbins is a great talent. So I probably need to move him up in composite, but I feel like running backs, I
feel like Cam Akers, though, he's kind of a wild card. Who knows? Because who knows anything about Henderson? Who knows anything? I mean, we've heard nothing about – well, we have heard that Henderson is probably going to be – I don't know. They talk a lot about the committee there, you know?
which I hate.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell like how much to trust some of that stuff because coaches don't want to crush the ego or confidence of guys that I mean these are like real world. For us they're just fantasy. We don't have to deal with the egos, we don't have to deal with the hurt feelings. These are guys that they're going to need to contribute, and so they have to talk them up regardless as being like, oh yeah it's going to be a huge part of my team. But with with guys like in Indy, like knowing, like being a fan of that team and following it, like I 100% believe them when they say that they're effectively going to split carries between Mac and Taylor. The Rams, I don't know about. But Henderson didn't really impress last year, and I think the fact that they used that high of a pick on Akers, it just leads me to believe that he's probably going to get the bulk of the carries. So we'll see.
Yeah. The other thing with the Rams for me is just that they're going to have to go in and play San Francisco twice and Seattle twice, and that's never fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough. They've got some tough divisional opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. And Swift doesn't really.
No, he's got the Vikings, who've always had a good defense, not necessarily like top 5, and the Bears could be great or good on any given day. It's going to hurt with Eddie Goldman gone, so he's got a slightly easier path, but
I think they'll be top 30.
Interesting.
All right. Well, are we ready to move on? I think it's good. You didn't give us a chance to talk about him. Can you go back to your?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I can go over here
because there was a few that I had questions about.
Yeah, I can go down if you want me to.
I forget who it was though. T. Higgins is interesting. I didn't know where to put him. Yeah. A lot of people had him right there, and I think that's where I had him too. But it's not. It's really just compared to the other guys. It's not.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm ever going to draft him in fantasy. I might keep an eye on him though. Like if Green goes down. Oh, has Green ever gone down during the season?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Yeah, it's a rare occurrence.
And I mean, they still have Ross there. Boyd.
Yeah, that's the big thing is like not so much Ross, but if AJ Green and Tyler Boyd stay healthy, then doesn't it probably make more sense to put John Ross on the field with them than T. Higgins because he's such a much different player, to me it does. As far as like his speed and stretching the field. So I think if those guys are healthy, but again, if Green goes down or Boyd goes down or something, then that's a good opportunity for Higgins.
Green and Ross. It's not like
Ross is more of a when than an if.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't know though if Ross is the guy who goes down. Green and Boyd are still there. If there's enough volume there for him, then
Yeah, T. Higgins probably to me his biggest advantage to actually being a number one is the fact that he's got chemistry with Joe Burrow.
Well,
no, not Joe Burrow. Sorry, it's that he's just got. I don't know what I was saying. Sorry, it's the fact that he's going to have a lineup that's very injured.
Yeah.
Ross and AJ can go down any second.
They did play each other in the national championship, so maybe Joe.
Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, I mean, they're both Tigers. They're both Tigers,
right?
So.
Yeah, when you said that, I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." I had no.
All right, I don't know what I was thinking with that one.
So, why do so many analysts like him? Is it because he was a really good player? I mean, he graded high in college.
Why so many analysts like T. Higgins?
Yeah.
I would say it's probably just more about I mean, he did grade reasonably well. I mean, he ended up slipping into. Let's see. Wait, did he go? Yeah, he was the first pick of the second round because when the Cincy made that pick, I was afraid that it might be because it was right above the Colts, and I was afraid that they were going to take Michael Pittman, and so they took him right before Pittman. So I mean, he did. I mean, who he gets compared to is an old Clemson teammate of his now in the NFL, Mike Williams. And so then when I hear that comparison, I'm like, well, Mike Williams hasn't really done that much in the NFL. I mean, he's been solid, but he's got that really tall frame, that tall, lanky frame. He's not fast. He's just big, and he doesn't really. I don't know. I guess they would probably say I've seen some analysts try to make the case that even though he's not like fast, he's plays with better speed than what he actually runs and has some shiftiness to him. Probably more so than Mike Williams, sure. I mean, but I don't know. I think that comp has kind of scared me away from really believing that, plus the fact that he's got AJ Green and Tyler Boyd ahead of him, and that he's going to have a rookie quarterback, and all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to kill a lot of people if Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't start the season off very well or with many touches.
Well, not necessarily the people who were taking him in the third round,
but I'd see him go in the first round.
Oh, that's where he's going now. I mean, that's
the first round.
Yeah, I mean, he's going typically anywhere from like 5 to 9 overall.
Would any of you guys take him in the first round?
No, I wouldn't.
In a league,
because in our listeners league, would you consider it?
Oh, I can't give away. No. I can't give away my draft strategy for the league. I absolutely would consider everyone in every round. Yes. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll go ahead and say easy number one pick is Judah Buddha's favorite, John Brown. Easy number one for me.
He's out on John Brown. We've converted him over, we had converted him over to Derrick Henry for a while, and then we converted him over from John Brown to Calvin Ridley. I guess that one has stuck.
That one stuck. Yeah.
Oh, I love Calvin Ridley this year.
Of course you do.
I love John Brown, but he's got sickle cell, and this is not a good year to have sickle cell. A couple of the others people have been talking about. Coleman has diabetes. And
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman.
I don't think it's diabetes, is it? It's something where because I remember when he was with the Falcons, there was an issue with him playing at a high altitude in Denver. Wasn't it something like sickle cell?
Coleman's got sickle cell.
He does have sickle cell. Yeah, that's
he's got sickle cell as well.
Mm-hmm.
Connor, is a cancer survivor. The
one that kind of scares me is I have a lot of stock in Mark Andrews, the Ravens tight end, and he's the only player who has, I think, the only player who has diabetes in the NFL.
Yeah, that's who.
So that is a little worrisome because I have a ton of stock in him. We're talking about like guys like Drew Brees and AJ Green that I do. Mark Andrews is another because typically I can get him for low 20s, whereas Kelsey may cost $35-$40 in an auction. Kittle's going to go in the 30 to 35 range usually. But Andrews, I think, is a guy, in his second year really started to break out last year. And I think he could, take another jump this year. So the value for that, I have a hard time passing up on, and so I've got a lot of stock in him. So that would not be good if something happened to him.
He also doesn't have Hayden Hurst sharing playing time with him either.
Right.
I mean, they still have like 3 tight ends, but
Is Max Williams still there?
I think Boyle is the
Boyle.
third tight end. Nick Boyle.
well, yeah.
We can look. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I want to say he was the third one.
So yeah.
Yes, Nick Boyle. That's him. He's right. You're right.
Because I remember them last year when I had a few Mark Andrews, and he vultured a couple of touchdowns in a couple in a few games that I got really frustrated.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Boyle or if it was Hayden Hurst, but I was like, come on.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I know that because they were all good and they would take Andrews off the field some. And Andrews was like every week he would start, I remember, as like questionable with a foot injury. And that was always like holding your breath a little bit. And he did end up missing one game. So his numbers, 64 receptions, 852 yards, and 10 touchdowns in 15 games. So he missed one. So he would have been, most likely over 900 yards last year. So, you're if he stays healthy, you got to think you're looking at a guy who can potentially give you 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns as a tight end. Like, man, that's just the value on that is just something I can't pass up. Now, some of the leagues, I've just diversified my portfolio with some Kittle stock and Kelsey stock and stuff like that. But I have a lot of Mark Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that some of that being on because I remember that he was just always on the injured list. Do you think some of that, I didn't know back then that he was, I barely just knew recently. Do you think some of that's the diabetes? Like cautionary stuff?
They said it was foot related. So
Foot related is diabetes stuff.
Right. I know, but you were asking if it was like cautionary stuff. I wasn't sure what you meant by that, but yeah, I think
like they always weren't totally sure because they wanted to make sure that he was like, since he had diabetes, if it's a foot thing, they wanted to make sure it's.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I thought it was Coleman, but yeah, it was
Andrews.
Mark Andrews. Mm-hmm. Well, see, they didn't opt out. A lot of the people that I was worried about opting out didn't. I heard rumors that Nick, what's his name?
Bosa?
No, Foles was going to opt out, and he didn't opt out. I heard Tre'Davious White was going to opt out. He didn't opt out.
I saw he even posted something on social media that made it seem like he was going to, because I don't know if it was intentionally doing that, but when they were talking about it, then he posted something, I think, to Instagram or Twitter saying basically criticizing fans for criticizing him for making the best decision for his family. And I'm like, oh man, it sounds like he's gonna opt out, but then he didn't. So maybe he was just trolling them to scare them a little bit. I don't know.
Weird. Well, what else we got?
Probably is there anything else? Because gone through my ranking.
I think that's about it. Unless do we have any other comments or questions?
Well, 710 said the Raiders are going to be fun to watch, and the Bengals are stacked this season.
They kind of are. I would say upside stack.
With an They kind of are.
They have a lot of upside. I'll say that. Yeah, everything clicks for them. They could be a powerful team. You see a lot of stuff about Greenspan coming out, and looks like he's back to good form.
Yeah, the value again. Like I don't know what percentage of my leagues I have AJ Green in.
A lot.
I have taken him a lot. I mean, just you look at the player that he has been, and let's see if I have. Yes, I have. Oh my gosh, I have so much AJ Green. I have an absurd amount of AJ Green, but when
like half.
200. Wow.
Yeah, like probably half my teams I have
Wow.
AJ Green. But when you can get him for like, $5, and again, for just a guy who when he plays, I mean, when he's healthy, is you're going to turn in like, I mean, you're going to get like second round pick value from him most likely, and
He could be a top 10 wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
yeah. So I mean, even if he gets hurt, or even if he doesn't, live up to the hopes. I mean, $5, $5. I mean, it's just too cheap to not take a gamble on.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. 710 also says a lot of us have 0 teams.
Yeah.
So we want to get started too. Okay, you know what? Nobody's stopping you.
Yeah.
Like, go get a team, dude. There's a lot of free ones out there. You don't have to pay for them. Or I don't know if he's saying we need to hurry up and draft or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what he's saying either. Yeah, but yeah, there's tons of stuff out there, and actually, you're probably smart for waiting to this point to make a more informed decision. Although,
I like mine.
Yeah, I think I do better. It seems like with the ones, it seems like I do better drafting them super early or super late.
That's true.
Somehow it's either like get in before the players who know, most of the sane people who know what they're doing are not drafting at that point. They're like, no, it's way too much time for people to get injured or opt out from COVID or whatever, or wait till the last minute where you're as informed as possible. That seems to usually be the best groups of teams for me. The ones that I get like in the middle somewhere seem to kind of lag behind a little bit.
Interesting.
All right, folks, I got to go.
Yeah, I was about to say that's going to wrap us up on the one and only Roto Hackers podcast. This episode flew by, like you said, Jared. I
did.
Hour and a half. Okay.
It did. Yeah, past an hour and a half. It does not feel like it. I don't know. I don't know.
Like our ones we did where it's like,
yeah.
I don't know. Is there
Maybe
anything else? More COVID.
maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's just that we're getting closer to the season and it's starting to, I don't know.
More exciting, and plus my pep talk. So there's that.
Oh yeah,
that was probably what made the difference. Yeah.
Yep.
I tell you what happened is while I was listening to that, it was like I got lost in some time zone, like Twilight Zone. Like, what am I listening to? And then you step out and you're like, how much time has passed? And and it's people are like, years have passed, and you're like, oh, it's just
Endgame when the rat hits the button.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Judah Buddha speeches are basically the quantum realm. You have no idea how much time has passed from the time that it started till the time that it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? 710 says it's got it ready to play.
That's good. You've gotten some kudos, from Thomas H. and all that. So yeah,
we might have to change the title of this to Judah Buddha gives the greatest speech ever.
Oh gosh, I think they're being sarcastic. But 710 also says, haven't heard any. I have actually. I heard from one guy. He's like, a guy in Illinois too. He said, and masks are not even required. So I was like, oh, they're like optional. So I was like, I'm not going to go, of course, because it's far away from me right now. But I was like, if I had been in town.
What, they were drafting the league all in the same room together?
They're going to, yeah.
Oh, okay. You just jumped into masks are optional, and I'm like, right. Are you trying to make a joke? Because
no. He was saying masks are optional, and I forgot to tell you that they don't draft unless they have 10 people, usually live. It's like a live auction, and so they like to have it everybody there.
Okay, yeah, that was the disconnect.
That was an important piece of information.
Like, none of my other leagues require masks at the draft either. So,
but yours are all you do mostly. You do 100%. Like,
well, it won't be 100% this year because of our listeners league, but normally, yeah, because I play for money, and the people who know me don't want to play for money with me.
Well, that's going to wrap us up, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of auction drafts, we will probably have ours sometime soon.
I
For
put
the 4 of you still watching, go ahead, say it.
I put 22nd up in the comments, up in the chat on the Yahoo Fantasy app. Leave a comment down below. Join our league.
Yeah, we're going up to 12. We said, right?
12, yeah, 12, or I guess maybe even 14. But I'd say probably 12. I don't think we need to stretch. I don't think we need to stretch for 14. But if it turns out if we get 12 and we get 2 longtime listeners that are like, oh, let's get on that, then I think we should probably let them in.
Yeah, I will open it up. Yeah, for we have most of our listeners in here, but if somebody comes on and and there's one guy I don't know in the league, Anthony or something like that. Do you guys know him?
Is that it?
No, that's my friend. No, Anthony.
Oh, okay.
No, Anthony's Math Quest.
Which team is it?
There was somebody.
Is it Jonathan? It hurts when Eifert?
No, I know Jonathan. He's my friend. I told him to join because I was worried.
Because I know everybody else in this one. I know who they are, which listener they are. Yeah.
Luis, you know him? Who's
that's our guy, Battle Royale.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay,
we're good.
cool.
Yeah, so that's gonna do it for us. If you want to join our league still, the link is in the comment section. For the 4 people still watching, thank you for hanging in for so long.
You say that like it's a low number.
No, it's just it's getting to midnight for you guys. So if anyone's on the East Coast, I'm like, man, they're hanging in with us here. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. We've had a lot of questions in the last 2 episodes. It's been great.
Yeah, it's going to be good to get back to, last year we would get on some after, not during the broadcast, but when all was said and done, we had a couple of 100 views and stuff like that. And we just get more engagement and stuff. So it's good to get back close to the season to get actual specific questions and engagement and viewers and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So maybe not, we'll see about, I don't know. What are we doing on Saturdays at this point?
Well, I think we probably should start going back Saturdays, prepare for next, because 22nd looks like was when it's a Saturday.
Probably.
I said 10:30. I didn't say what Eastern or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But you're gonna put it out there, right, to see if nighttime or something's better for people, right?
Yeah.
I just asked if it works.
Oh, okay.
Morning. But yeah, I could ask more specifically.
Well, then we will see you guys maybe Saturday, and if not, next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in to the Roto Hackers podcast. 710 and Math Quest. We'll see you guys later. Have a good night on the one and only Roto Hackers podcast.